Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ellen, and today I am doing my May wrap up. So I only have 4 books to talk about, so this should be a quick video, and some of these are sequels, so there's really not that much to tell, but I wanted to at least let you guys know what I did read in May. Without further ado, here we go. So the first book that I finished in May was House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. This book is massive, and I thought for some reason that this book was way bigger and, chunkier than House of Earth and Blood, and it is thickness wise, but I don't know if you guys have noticed, but here, I just grabbed the other one. So if you're comparing the thickness, it's pretty obvious House of Sky and Breath is bigger, right? But the paper is different. Like, they have the same amount of pages, but do you feel how thin this page is in Earth and Blood? And this one, it's thicker. It's more thick. And so they have pretty much similar amounts of pages. They're pretty much the same, but they have different. So anyway, why does that matter? But I was like, this is huge. So I had this sitting on my shelf for over a year because this came out in February of last year, and my husband got it for me for our anniversary because we got married in February, and I was really excited. I was like, yeah, I can't wait to get to this. And then time went on and I didn't, and it was because it was daunting. I was like, oh my gosh, it's 800 some pages, and I magically forgot how big the other one was. They're the same. Anyway, this story, it's the sequel, so I can't really share much, but we are continuing on the story with Bryce Quinlan and Hunt Athalar, and we're kind of continuing on from the events of the end of the first book, which of course I'm not going to spoil that for you, but things get a lot darker. Things are starting to unravel. There's a lot of things about Bryce's best friend Danica, who we kind of got to see in the first book. We're figuring out more about who Danica is as a person. There's more secrets that are being uncovered. There's more political intrigue. There's more world building, and there's more secrets, and just you're uncovering things. As you're getting answers, there's also more questions that are being, put into light. And Bryce is like, how much do I not know? Because she thought she knew her best friend. She thought she knew pretty much everything about her, but as time goes on and as she's finding more answers and thus finding more questions, she's starting to understand that she actually didn't really know Danica as well as she thought she did. And that plays an important part. It turns out Danica is really more important in terms of the plot line than really anyone really knew. And that's about as detailed as I can get without spoiling anything, but you are finding out more about Danica. You're finding out more about how she was important, maybe why she was killed. You're getting more answers about that, and you're realizing that the events that happened in book 1, the reason why those things happened, it's more deep than you initially thought. So it was really good. I really enjoyed this book, and I know not everyone is a Sarah J. Maas fan, but I am. I really, of course, there's some cheesy moments, of course, that I think if I had to really critique this book, besides some of the writing styles, kind of okay, yeah. I think the thing that really annoys me the most is because Amanda from The Naughty Librarian, she said the same thing about this series, even though she still reads them. And I think it bothers her more than it bothers me. But, this world, this is a fantasy story. We're on the planet Midgard, and there's different kind of solar systems and stuff like that. But they have pizza. They have cell phones. They have all the stuff that we have in our world, and you would think that they wouldn't have things like pizza or cell phones because that's an earthly thing, and we're not on Earth, we're on Midgard. And so it's kind of why is there pizza? Because pizza's from Italy, right? So there's no Italy in this world, so how is there pizza? And if they had a thing similar to pizza, then wouldn't it be called something different? So and same for cell phones and technology. You just think that they would have different I mean, they do have some different ways of communicating, but you would just think that like cell phones really be a thing, you know, that's something humans invented. So anyway, that's like kind of my main complaint about like the world building and stuff. But in general, I really enjoyed this book. I really like how, you know, things are coming together. I like how we're finding out more answers, but more questions are getting raised. And so I'm really looking forward to the next book. I believe it's called House of Flame and Shadow. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the creatures like dragons and stuff. I know they have like a little key here. The House of Flame and Shadow, like Daemonaki, Reapers, Wraiths, Vampires, Dragons, Necromancers, etc., etc. So I'm excited for it. I really enjoyed this. I'm glad I finally read it, so I'm not just looking at it and burning with guilt and shame. Okay, so the next book that I read, it's a manga, and I actually did a whole reading vlog about it because this was my first Junji Ito that I've ever read, and that was Uzumaki. And this was a ride, okay? Like, if you want my full thoughts and feelings, please go check out that reading vlog that I did for this. But I enjoyed it. This is very messed up. It really, if you read this, you know what I mean. I can't look at snails the same. And guess what my daughter is obsessed with right now? She's obsessed with snails. Like, now we will go outside and we will be finding snails on the ground because that's her new favorite thing to do. Besides finding eggshells from like the birds that are laying eggs and stuff, it's finding snails. And now I can't look a snail the same. Like, of course they're not my favorite creatures to begin with, but even now, like especially now after reading this, they really gross me out. So yeah, but what is this about? We're following this kind of seaside village. Gosh, what was it called? Kurozucho. Yeah, that's right, Kurozucho, and we're following a girl and a guy. How do I not remember anything about this book already? So Shuichi and Kirie, that's right. So I apologize. I totally even forgot their names. We're following a boy and a girl. They're boyfriend and girlfriend. They're in high school, Shuichi and Kirie. And Kirie is kind of like the main character, but Shuichi is almost like a, you know, like a second kind of protagonist that you see more often than anyone else. You're following them while they're living in this town, Kurozucho, and all of a sudden Shuichi's dad was just kind of going insane. Like, he starts looking at stuff in nature and finding like spirals. Even like snails have the spirals on them. You know, there's shells and stuff like that. You find lots of things in nature that have a natural spiral to them. And Shuichi's dad started going crazy, started looking at spirals, being obsessed with them. And yeah, and it goes from there. These spirals are starting to like almost like hypnotize people and just making them go crazy. And it just goes from there. It starts affecting this town in multitudes of ways. Like, it's not just the same way that people are being affected. Some people are affected, you know, I don't want to say anything. I can't say anything, to be honest, without spoiling, but it affects people in different ways, in ways that I never even thought were possible. So Junji Ito is very creative. He really knows how to take certain mundane things and make it twisted. This was really great though. If you're into horror manga, this was amazing. And I like how it kind of, there's like the overarching plot, like the spirals and how is it affecting people and stuff. But you also get like little, like each chapter, it goes into the different ways that the spirals are affecting people. So you'll see Kirie out on the town doing something, and then she notices like so-and-so doing this, and like, oh my gosh, is that the spiral? Are they affected by the spirals? And you get like a different kind of story on how they're being affected. And it is messed up, but it's great. I highly recommend it if you haven't already. If you're squeamish in any way, I probably don't recommend it, but it's really fun. It's twisted, it's fun, and it's a quick read. The next thing that I read is another sequel, and that is Before Your Memory Fades by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is the third book in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series, and I know that the fourth book is being translated into English at the end of this year, so I really can't wait to get to that one. I believe 5 books are out in Japan, but I think the 5th book just came out, but it takes time to translate, so we're just now getting the 4th one in English later. So I'm really excited about that. I just love these books. They're very charming and they're cozy. And I'm not the biggest expert on Japanese writing yet. Even though I'm half Japanese, I haven't read that many books by Japanese authors. I think I've been suppressing that part of my identity for a really long time. So I'm really trying to make up for it. And it's an old video that I made, but if you're ever just slightly curious about why I'm just now reading Japanese authors, I will link down below an old video that I did kind of explaining why that is the case. But anyway, even though I'm not a huge expert on Japanese authors or literature yet, I will say that with what I have read, I feel like Japanese authors, especially, they differ from American authors in the way that they can deliver a story and they can have a message in a more subtle way than I feel like a lot of American writers would do. So like the main purpose of this story, whether it's the first book, second, or this third book, is there's this cafe. And in this cafe, there is a specific chair in this cafe that can allow you to time travel. And you can go back in time, or even in very rare cases, you can go forward in time to, if you want to resolve any issues you had with someone, if you want to wrap up some loose ends, if you want some closure, like saying goodbye to someone that passed away. The thing is, there are several caveats to this, that the person you want to go see, they had to have been to that cafe before. And you have to know exactly when you want to go back, because you only have enough time to talk to them until the coffee gets cold. If you don't drink all the coffee before it gets cold, you get stuck there and you become the new ghost. So for people that want to sit in this chair, there's always a ghost sitting in that chair, and only one time per day will that ghost leave the chair to use the restroom, and that's the only chance you have to sit in that seat and go back in time. And it varies every single day. You don't really know when that ghost is going to leave. And it begs the question of, if you could go back in time, who would you want to see? What would you want to do? What do you want to accomplish with that? And I really like this message. And I feel like the way that this author, Toshikazu Kawaguchi, he takes 4 simple stories in every book. You get 4 short stories, and they all kind of overlap and interconnect in some way. Like, he takes these stories, and even though they seem simple, I like how it's normal everyday life, but it's still impactful. It still made me cry. It still made me have tears in my eyes. He just really knows how to tug at your heartstrings, because he's drawing from real life experiences that people go through every single day. Finding out a loved one could be dying, or they already died and you really want closure, or someone's boyfriend is moving to a different country and you didn't get to say what you wanted to say, so now you want to fix that. It happens in our everyday lives all the time. It may not be everyone's thing, but I think you should just give it a chance. And I think you just have to get used to the concept of, maybe some American people or Western cultures might find these books kind of boring because there's not much drama involved. But to me, I don't think there needs to be a lot of drama for you to understand the point and to get something out of these books. So really love this one. Can't wait to read the next one when it's translated to English. And yeah, I'm really excited for it. Really recommend. The 4th and final book that I read, this is probably my least favorite book that I read this month, or in the month of May, and that was She and Her Cat by Makoto Shinkai. I will put like an image there. I got this book from my library, and I knew it was a short book, but this was my fault. I didn't do enough research on this, but it was actually 4 short stories, and I thought it was just a novella. Like, I thought it was one story, and it was, I thought we were just following one perspective. I didn't know it was 4 short stories. So that kind of impacted my enjoyment a little bit. And also this one was pretty boring to me. Like, I don't normally really rate books, but if I had to, I would just rate it like a 3-star. Like, it was okay. None of the stories really stood out to me. To be honest, I already kind of forgot what any of them were really about. Like the one that stuck the most to me is just the very first one. And that's just because this girl finds this cat. He's a stray cat. She finds this kitten, she takes him in, and he is loved, and he gets to see how his human person, like you get the perspective of both the human and the cat, and you get to see the cat's perspective about how they view their human, and then how the human kind of views their cat, kind of thing. And it was just blah. Like, it was all right. It wasn't anything special, to be honest. Like, I like what it was trying to do. I think it was cute and stuff. And who doesn't like cats? I mean, I like them, but the story wasn't really anything special. I really couldn't tell you anything much about it. So I'm sorry to end this on such a negative note, but I was just telling you all the books that I read in order in the month of May. And that's how I ended May. So it really kind of put me in a reading slump, to be honest, because I think that's what tends to happen is if you're reading a book that just doesn't bring you joy, you just lose the motivation to like read something else, even though you know you're going to love the next book. But anyway, that is what I read. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know down below in the comments, what did you read in May? What was your favorite book that you read in May? And what was your least favorite book? I would love to know. My least favorite book was She and Her Cat. Out of the other three that I read, the one that I liked the most, I think the one I liked the most was, honestly, I think it was House of Sky and Breath. I think that this really surprised me, how it kind of ended. I'm really intrigued. I'm really excited to read the next one. And I'm usually not a huge, I love series, but it's really hard for me to like get excited about continuing, even if I love the story, just because I'm a procrastinator. But now I'm like, when is the next book coming out? Because I really need to know what happens. So yeah, that's how I feel. So anyway, let me know in the comments your answers to my questions, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.